Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara.
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 Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Yes, Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara.
Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara.
Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara. Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara. Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara. Sukhakara Dukkha Hara, Hara Hara Shiva Shankara.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Clap, clap. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om
All
Namah
together.
Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
One more time.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om
The last one.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay, you guys, think about how wonderful it would be a whole Saturday evening of that. Yeah, think about it. Woo! So how many of you were here? Don't stand up. You can wave your hand or smile at me or raise an eyebrow or something, but how many of you were here last week and heard Gino's talk? Yeah. Well, I want to kind of continue on that because she gave us a great example of trusting Spirit, whatever you want to call it, to work things out when things weren't going her way. To make a very long story short, she had a flat tire, and she ended up with 3 new tires at a price she could afford. Better than she thought. She wanted 1 tire. God said, why not take 3? Which is the way that the Spirit works because the universe is generous. We need to think about that. It's generous. It comes generously into existence. When the trees need to give enough acorns or seeds or whatever, and we live on 5 acres, so I know they love to give. Anyway, when the cottonwoods want to spread those little white things around, they don't just spread a few to start just a few new trees. They give enough and overabundance. That's the way the universe works, and that's the way it worked for her. And so, since my reason for incarnating on this planet was to inspire and empower people to live in closer proximity to their God, thereby bringing harmony into their life and onto the planet, I want to talk about how to break that down a bit so that we can all live from that way. So that when something comes up, we can know that it's going to be handled. If you heard her story, she knew it would be handled. She didn't go into awfulizing. Now, she probably did. No, she didn't. There was a part of me that said, how could she do that? Well, she did it because she's got a spiritual practice. And her knee-jerk reaction was one of empowerment instead of awfulizing. But it takes practice so that that's our reaction. Life happens, stuff happens, even to nice people. Stuff happens to spiritual people. Life happens and stuff happens. If you live on a farm, shit happens. Because it does. Yeah, about 50 pounds a horse. Anyway. No truth. Anyway. I'm glad I'm a farm girl. I can say things now. But stuff happens. It's how we handle it. Do we have the resources to respond graciously? Or are we going to respond defensively? Worry is a defense. We think something horrible is going to happen and we worry about it. It's bad. It's going to get worse. How many of you have gone down that slippery slope recently? Only a few, only one recently. Well, okay, and they're all clustered right here. That's very interesting. We'll call that the bad zone. Woo! Well, I want to talk about how to have a reflex reaction like Gino did. The tire is flat and, well, God, what are you going to do? So 3 ways to do that. First of all, as the Beatles would say, we need to give peace a chance. And we give peace a chance by practicing peace. Not when something happens, but practice it daily so that it's our response. It's our go-to state of being. To practice peace for me, I'm going to give you I noticed that first service I was a little strident. Do this. And Ernest Holmes said we're not supposed to do that, so I'm sorry. I don't do it right, but anyway, something. We don't tell you what to do, but I was so strident because it's been so important in my life, and that is to just be still. There's so many forms of meditation. There's walking meditation. You can chant. You can have a mantra. Plenty of ways to find that space of moving outside your own thinking process. But after that or in between that or just through the day, to practice stillness, as in silence, inner silence. A friend of mine, Reverend Petra Weldes, who is now at the Dallas Center, said that she could practice silence easier and better after she had just come in from a run. So I don't know how you do that, but to just take a minute and make it 2 and then 3 and maybe get up to 10 of just listening as though your life depended on it, as though you had a newborn in the other room and you wanted to be there for every gurgle. You listen that way. And in that is such peace. There's ways to help with that. You can set a timer on your smartphone. I love smartphones. They'll help us do anything. There's apps for everything. But use it. I'm so grateful to Gary for having meditation at 8:30, and I am sure that we're going to be expanding that now that we're in this building. There's other ways that we can just facilitate stillness because it's actually easier in a group. In that stillness, you'll have the resource to know everything's okay, and then when something happens, say to yourself, God's got this. God's got this. Don't carry the burden. Strengthen that trust muscle. Now that sounds doable, doesn't it? Uh-huh. And God does have this, unless I do. So the practice is God's got this. Something will happen. This is all going to work out. I want harmony. That's the first step. And it can be a reaction, but I want to give you 3 more steps, and they grow progressively harder. The next thing is to say exactly what you want, what you truly, truly desire from your heart. The mind will want to fix. The heart wants to transcend. If we have a condition, the mind is looking at how it can be fixed, and then we tell God to fix it. I mean, even Gino would say, she just wanted her tire fixed. God said, how about 3? What is it that you truly want? If we get sick, there can be a tendency to pray for health, to have prayer practitioners pray for our health. To transcend that would be to start out with the first of the year is to say, this year I will be healthy every day. To set it straight, the path that you want to go down. There's a phrase in the Bible that says, I will make straight your way. Let yourself see how you really want to live instead of living haphazardly and then praying yourself out of it. Live intentionally. If you want a new job, and I didn't ask that this time, but for those of you that would like to have a better job or a different job, don't think of it as job. Think of it as, how do I want to creatively express my talent and myself in a way that I'll be compensated? What does my soul want to give? Not do I want to find. And then allow yourself to see yourself giving your best to the world and being compensated for it. It's a different way of viewing things, and it will create a different effect. If you want to, I confessed this first service, so I guess I will confess it now. I finally gave up wanting a relationship. I've had them, bunches. I'm married more than a couple. I was gonna say I'm married a couple. No, I'm married a bunch. And it was old fashioned. I thought, well, I guess we get married now. stopped doing that. Because I finally got really clear that what I wanted was someone that we could love and support each other through all the changes of the rest of our life. Do you see how that makes it a different trajectory? It transcends the filling of a space. And in that lifting up, there's a call from the universe to be of larger support. I'm trying to be more transparent, and I'm going to share something, and it's about money, and what I've heard is that sometimes this turns people off. And I don't like to turn people off. There is still a small part of me that really likes to be liked, but it's growing smaller. Smaller and smaller. It's shriveling. I'm melting! There was a time when I had trouble paying my bills, and the reason I had trouble paying my bills is because in Eugene terminology, I had champagne tastes on a beer budget. So I would get what I wanted to have, but unfortunately then I'd have to pay it off. And it was amazing. After paying bills, there was nothing left, much. And then my consciousness was tweaked by one of my mentors who told me about, oh yeah, I just went out and bought a new car and I paid cash. And I went, nobody pays cash. Not from where I came from. From my background, that was like unheard of. But it said something in consciousness like, what if I never had to charge again? Do you see how that's a different thing? I can have what I want, when I want it, and the money will be available. I paid for my last 2 cars cash. And it's pretty easy if you keep cars for a long time. And this is me trying to explain it because someone actually told Harold, if she can pay for a car with cash, we're paying her too much. No, I just know how to manage money, brothers and sisters. It's really simple. You keep a car a long time, and the money after you pay something off, you just put it in the bank. But what if you could see yourself and say, Spirit, I now want to have the resources that I have, the freedom to do what I want when I want it in such a way that I'm not burdened anymore with debt. What if you held the consciousness of being totally debt-free? Do you see how that's different than how will I pay my bills? What if it was just lights and water and God bless taxes? I mean that. Do you see the difference? Did you notice how the whole room went, what? It was like really funny when I was talking about how many husbands I had. Good. If you're bothered, there's going to be a money mastery support group tomorrow downstairs at 6:30. But it's just like, be firm. Our heart doesn't want to fix things. Our heart doesn't want to go through life fixing things. Our heart wants to express. Our heart wants to be free. Our heart wants to create. Our heart wants to give. Our heart wants to see what's possible for us, for our children, and for our world. And we give it that freedom by speaking about that in such a way that it's an affirmation from our heart, and the rest gets handled. It was Carl Jung who said the best way to solve a problem is to get a much bigger one. 3, Move into closer identity with whatever you want to call the big enchilada. God, the universe, love, life, whatever. Get into a closer identification, a closer relationship with it, and get to the place that you can say, as Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, and the Father and I are one. Or as Hafiz said, no one can keep you from carrying God wherever you go. No one can rob his name from your hearts as you relinquish your fears and at last stand victorious. We will never leave him in the mosque or the church overnight. We do not have to be envious of our spirit's ability, which can sometimes touch God in a dream. For your yearning eyes, your warm needing bodies can all be drenched in contentment and light. Doesn't that sound good? No one anywhere can keep us from carrying the beloved wherever we go. No one can rob his precious name from the rhythm of your heart, from the rhythm of your step, from the rhythm of your breath. So we seek that, to seek first that connection, to do it in silence, to do it in chanting, to do it in kirtan, to do it in service to others, to do it by sitting on the earth, to do it by gazing at the trees, to do it by reaching out to another, to do it to give an encouraging word, to do all of that in with the realization that I'm reaching out to the invisible, to the visible, through the visible, and I'm doing it so that I can increase my connection with the one, to do it all for that reason, to cook for the nourishment of others. And I'm sorry, but I'm confessions. My wonderful friend, Marcia Sutton, used to have a list of things that you could do to increase your spiritual practice, to really have a life that's rich with spiritual practice. And I could go check, 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 bless your food. Meh. Why? Because I'm hungry. I just chow it down like a little piggy. And what I realize is that I should be cooking for the glory of God and to nourish my wonderful beloved family and friends, and to do it as an offering. It's like, no, let's just take it out of the pan and eat it. It's like, I can't. But anyway, but you could be that way, that everything could be an expression of love, of an expression of holiness. What a wonderful way to live, to increase our connection. Not that we can get any more connected, but that our conscious mind will be aware of it. Oh, the bliss of it. Then back to step one, that silence. As we have been doing what we do to connect with the beloved, to connect with something greater than ourselves, whatever you want to call it, then we use that silence to listen. We use the silence to be instructed. We use the silence to be directed. So much of what I have gotten came out of just pure silence. Being still and then like, whoa, that's a thought. Wow. Whew. One of the thoughts that came to me back on relationships, so that raise the vibration in here again, is I was about to pray for a relationship, and something said, well, you've had lots of those. Why don't you try something different? Oh. There is a homing device that will take us to heaven. Are we listening? And heaven's in our mind. Are we listening? Number 4. A way to have more harmony. This is a little bit harder because there can be a sense, like I said, of being reactionary. But to practice daily seeing everything as either an ally or a teacher. And everything is here to empower you to be your best self and live from your most spiritual life. To just see it as that. Even if it's a challenge, like, oh, I can come up to that challenge. Oh, I can come up to that challenge. This is here to remind me of my nature. And then we could say things like, well, what would Jesus do? Or what would Buddha do? Or what would I do if I remembered who I was? What would I do if I remembered that I'm a spiritual being? What would I do if I remembered that I am made out of love and light? How would I respond to those people or that situation if I remembered who I was? How would I do that then? Would I awfulize it? Or would I say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to be greater than I thought? I guess I will say this. Well, a few things. I was talking to a person last summer who really wants to be on a spiritual path, is willing to do anything except like people. They'll be still, they om, they chant, they read Emma, they can recite Emma. That's a big deal. But they're very willing to say, and I just don't like people. Well, what would love do? What would love do? For those of you that are doing it all but can't seem to forgive yourself for something that you've done, what would love do? For those of you that are doing all the practices but you're hard on yourself because you're not there yet, what would love do? What does a spiritual person do? A spiritual person, I don't know, but I guess we take a deep breath and we open up in sweet surrender to everything that we think God is. We contemplate that and we see how God can move through us. Emerson said, what we contemplate, we become. In a bit, we'll be singing a song about Jai Ram, which is basically yay or praise Rama, an expression of divinity. And Rama was a spiritual warrior. And saying Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram made Gandhi, who was afraid of everything. He was afraid of the dark. He was afraid of other people. He was afraid of everything. He was tearful. And when his nanny gave him that mantra, he started to transform into a spiritual warrior. Not in stature, but in consciousness. So you ask yourself, what would I do if I really knew that God and I are one? How would I behave? How would I act? How would I respond? Now this, I have to say this, because notice how I said I? That's the hard part. We need to practice seeing everything as for us and moving through us and what can God do through us rather than thinking that us has to do it. Does that make sense? Because I of myself can't do this. You of yourself can't do this. We can open up in sweet surrender and let something move through us to do it. My husband, watch this later. My husband had an accident and a horse stepped on his leg and bruised it really, really bad. But he went to the doctor. There's no break, but it wasn't getting better. And I was giving it my best juju, I was praying and knowing and praying and knowing and praying and then kind of ticked at him that he wasn't well yet and praying and knowing. Notice I was. And yet at another time, he hit his head. I'm not sure, he was out. We were out, I remember where we were. And he said, I hit my head and my head's ringing and I got and I feel dizzy and I got vertigo and I reached over. I just didn't even think. I reached over and put my hands on his cheeks and I said, it's going to be better. And what I was thinking is, I'll pray about it later, I'm busy. And yet he said at that moment, the ringing and the vertigo stopped. Why? Because I wasn't doing it. We're not here to do anything. We're here to welcome God doing through us. To take direction. To be a place where the good news is spoken about. To be the place where healings happen. To be the place where peace is revealed. To be the place where people get their courage again. To be the place where people feel safe and secure. We're the place where anxiety can come to an end, to stop. Why? Because anxiety, when it meets peace, dissipates. We're what we've been waiting for. We'll change the world through trickle up. Did I say that? Trickle up. I've always loved trickle up. You change consciousness and everybody's got to change. We're waiting for them. No. Let them feel the shift. Let's pray. So allow yourself, just move into that, just awareness. Wake up. Go into that place that we've created together, that place where you can know all that you need to know. Go into that place where you can be directed and instructed. And take a deep breath. And ask, what is mine to do? How am I to serve? Who am I to support? What direction should I take? How can I transcend what I've been dealing with to envision a whole new life? A whole new way of being. And open up in sweet surrender to the loving messages always available. And so it is.